Catching him chat, stimming and winning. Ah, that's how you do, man. That's how you do. What is a Terran? But here we go. We're getting into a fresh series, and spawning in the top right hand corner of ley lines, we have the South Korean Terran player, the blue Terran, representing Team Vitality. It is Ryung. And spawning in the bottom, oh, is Lunacy still here? Spawning in the bottom hand corner, we have the red Zerg player representing Gaiman Gladiators. The red Zerg, it is SHIN from South Korea. Here we go as we do settle in again. Shout out to Lunacy, he was here earlier providing some translations for us. We do appreciate it. Otherwise, we do have a bit of a back and forth between our two players. Also, a shout out once again to Flipper Flapjack, not just for resubscribing, but for gifting a sub to Porphorian in the chat. God, Papi God, thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for the love. We appreciate it. We appreciate the support, Pappy. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's thanks to the support that we get in the chat that we're able to host, or that we're able to cast as often as we do. Again, we cast StarCraft on a daily basis. Today was a different day. Today we were actually adminning the Euthermal 2v2 tournament. So very busy day here. It was a very long event. So we did a lot of adminning, of course, a lot of work behind the scenes. And now we're here to cast for even longer. We're 5 hours in. We're still yet to embrace the semifinals. We're here for the full 7 hours. Do we reach 8 hours tonight? We'll find out. We will find out. Oh my god, it's the thing. 8. The conversing pack. Jesus. So now we have our hatch gas pool. SHIN is going to be settling in. Likewise, Ryung as well. Ranks expand. Standard opener here out of Ryung. Based on the 15 and the 12, I'm pretty sure SHIN is referring to his pool timings. I think Ryung is asking him about that. I would assume. Non-stop StarCraft, exactly. Also, later tonight we have another cast. Not a tournament cast, we have the Pond cast. That's going to be later on tonight in how many hours time? 5 hours. Oh, I think 4 actually. Around 4 to 5 hours time, we have the Pond cast. Let's go. Let's go. I was tempted to maybe split this cast in half and do like half today and half tomorrow, but now we're committing, back. We're committing. We go all in, Pappy. We go all in. As Ryung is deflected, SHIN can now take an expansion. The third base is going to be delayed for SHIN, but not for too much longer here, as he will soon take that base, take that expansion. Back at home, Ryung going for a third CC before Starport. So very economic opener here by Ryung. Very macro-oriented. Does delay the expansion. Very nice. Does delay the hatchery for a couple of seconds. Pulls away. And finally, SHIN gets his third. Finally, the third base is up. We can calm things down. From here, SHIN is droning. And SHIN, we have the tech of choice here, going for a very fast Roach Warren. That is a 310 Roach Warren timing out of SHIN. This doesn't have to be for an all-in. This could be for an early Roach move out to harass and to keep tabs and to keep Ryung honest. As Ryung pokes in, Ryung barely does not get eyes on the tech. Ryung back at home gearing up. Going for his add-on swap, getting into Banshee production. So Banshee is going to be on the way. Going for the add-on swap, I would imagine, into Cloak. We'll keep an eye on Ryung to see if he does invest. And overall, Banshee openers are ideal against someone like SHIN because Roach play is very commonplace in ZVT when SHIN is involved. So again, 5 Roaches are on the way. You can see the nice movement here from these Queens, walling up, making sure Hellions do not make their way in. And I believe Ryung did get eyes on the Roach Warren. Still has yet to do so, which is a little bit concerning. Ryung has yet to get eyes on the tech of choice. Back at home, it is going to be those Cloaked Banshees. Banshees, they are building up. And they can help shut down these Roaches. We can see SHIN, he does only invest into 4 Roaches. He moves out, and behind this SHIN, he should be droning. Yep, he is droning up. Is saturating. Is going to be a 5 Roach move out. But even then, the Hellions do spot this, and SHIN pulls away. So just a very safe defensive opener here out of SHIN. Maybe hoping to force an overreaction, but for the most part, he's droning up and saturating. Back at home, Ryung looking quite safe, looking quite secure. Doesn't flinch with these Hellions. Still being active, still looking to delay the expansion and keep SHIN contained on 3 bases. SHIN is contained. Still trying to be active with those roaches. Does get caught by the Hellions. One Hellion goes down. The roaches, they hold their own. Do hold their own. SHIN still droning, still saturating, taking gases, taking up into the lair. With this, I would imagine that SHIN, he has a couple of options. He could either go from Roach into Hydra, into Roach Hydra Lurker, or he can go into a Baneling Nest into Ling Bane Roach Ravager. Typically 2 options. We'll see what SHIN goes for. As the Roach is going to be cleaned up, does get eyes on the tech of choice. Let's get eyes on the setup. Banshees, they do slip into the bases. They do get into the natural. When the Hellies, they dive in. Ooh, the drones, they do line up. Oh, he wants the drones. Oh my god, they do line up. And so far, a worker's going to be going down. 9 drones do fall. That could have been so much more disastrous. That could have been game then and there. But last SHIN, he does minimize losses. Still nice damage though out of Ryung, but not game ending. Not game ending, not yet. But the Banshees are still active. They do hit the natural once again. They dip back in. Getting another 2, getting another 3 drones. 12 kills in total. And SHIN, he is taking into Hive, actually. So we're going to have an Infestation Bit. We have a Baneling Nest. This tells us that it is not going to be Roach into Hydra. It's going to be Roach into Ling Bane. Ling Speed is on the way. But the Infestation Bit is an interesting addition here. We'll see if he rushes into a Hive or into Infestors. What does SHIN go for? If it is going to be a fast Hive, then this should be for fast Ultras. So initially, Ling Bane Roach Ravager into Ultra Tech. As after +1 range, we should be investing into +1 melee. Assuming that that's the tech path here of SHIN. As Ryung is being active with a double drop play. Still building up back at home. Did some nice harassing damage, of course. 4 CCs on the way. Ryung is gearing up towards the mid game. And he's trying to sneak up on that 4th. We'll see if he can. He slips in. Does go for the dive. He gets a queen. Gets 1. Hoping for another. Doesn't quite get it. SHIN, he will hold. He'll force Ryung back. So far, so good. He keeps up. And yep, fast Hive. So this fast Hive should be for fast Ultras. As we have Baneling Speed on the way. Carapace upgrades. More Ling Bane. Less so Roach Ravager. We are going to be settling in. As SHIN, he is just trying to gear up, trying to make sure it doesn't get caught out, so it doesn't get caught being too greedy. As we mentioned, yep, it is +1 range into +1 melee. This does signify the transition into a more melee-focused composition, as we assumed. The Hive is done, and we'll keep an eye out for that Ultra Cavern. But now Vipers are going to be prioritized. I do love to see it. Vipers are on the way. SHIN collapsing in. Does want the tanks, hot pickup. First 2 tanks going to be going down. The Bio Army is turned away. Decent splits here from Ryung, but he will lose 2 tanks. Despite that, the Marine Army is still looking quite terrifying, quite impressive. Ryung, he maintains his position. For now, he backs off. He's down to 1 tank, doesn't risk it. And there's that Ultra Cavern that we spoke about. The Ultra Cavern is on the way. So again, Ling Bane Roach Ravager into Ultras. And we'll see if SHIN can get away with that tech. For now, I mean, so far so good. He's zoning Ryung back, forcing him back home. Remember, SHIN, he has no intention of really breaking this position. It's all about buying time. It's just buying time, keeping Ryung on the back foot, keeping him on his toes while SHIN techs. The Ultras, that's going to be the killing move. That's going to be the killing blow, ideally. So SHIN just gearing up. Likewise, paving a way through all these tumors, catching a queen. Queen goes down. Ryung boosting between the bases. The Vipers have arrived. They have power bombs. Oh, and they will get them. Power bombs on the medevacs. This is the anti-air that SHIN has to rely upon, bearing in mind there is no Spire, there is no Hydroden, just Vipers and Queens. As Banshees, they do dip in between the bases. Kind of splitting on the way. You can see SHIN's still getting those upgrades ready, preparing for the Ultras. He's not there yet. Oh, oh my god. One more. Una más. The Banshee barely survives. Ryung pulls away. Behind this, he's on 4 bases. I do think that Ryung could have taken a faster 5th base just because of how defensive SHIN has been. SHIN, he hasn't really pushed outside of his side of the map, and because that, Ryung could have been more greedy. He could have, but he hasn't been. So Last is still stuck on 4 bases, throwing down a wall of CCs. SHIN still embracing those upgrades, getting into 3-2 upgrades. +2 melee, +3 carapace. Adrenals on the way. And now it's going to be on SHIN to refine his army. He has to get rid of the roaches. Specifically, the roaches are hurting him more than helping, as he still has 14 roaches. Once he gets rid of them, he can free up supply for Ultras. Assuming he wants them, Spire gets thrown down just in case. Spire is on the way. So far, SHIN's still just focusing on defending. He's keeping up. Ghost production has begun for Ryung. Extra factories. So ideally, when it comes to late game TvZ, the ideal composition is Mech Ghost. It is going to be Mech Ghost here, so that's what Ryung wants to work towards. He's still getting there, though. He's still stuck on a very heavy Marine composition, and again, this won't really help too much against the Ultras, assuming that SHIN even makes them. Again, because of how defensive Ryung has been, it might be wise to, even though we have invested into these upgrades, to skip Ultras and go into Broodlords instead. As Ultras, they can have a really awkward time pushing into these siege lines and pushing into this kind of Sim City. As SHIN moves in, decent baiting connections, nice spawning clouds here on the tanks. Bailing's it roll past, and massive connection, they shut down the bio. The bio does crumble, more tanks they get covered. And SHIN is trading quite well here, and remember, behind this he can remax. Now, does he remax on Ultras? As ghosts are falling left and right, more tanks as well. I do think that that would be a very good time for the Ultras, that they are 9 Ultras on the way. The mass Ultra transition, let's go. The Ultras are coming. Remember, SHIN, he wants to get rid of these roaches. He does want to trade them out and replace them with something greater. Files, they do connect, they take 10 minutes back. The Retravager is punished. SHIN, he is remaxing with Lings and Ultras. And how many ghosts does Ryung have? He's got 3. Oh boy, only 3 ghosts, 0 liberators. The tank count was somewhat reset. Thankfully, we do see Ryung making as many tanks as possible, making 3 tanks at a time. The question also becomes, are there any Vipers? The answer is no. No Vipers for SHIN. If we had some Vipers, then I can definitely see SHIN overwhelming this position with Ultras. Without Vipers, though, it's going to be a little bit more messy. Here we go. Kind of splitting is done. Ultra speed as well. The Ultras, they have been revealed. And SHIN, he's diving in. He's been building up towards these Ultras the entire game. He gets on top of the tanks, forces back the bio army. And SHIN, he's busting into the natural. He has broken through. That's kind of here. They take down one of the Ultras. But the rest of the army's rallying in. Ooh, we're running out of Ultras, though. We're down to 3, down to 1. The final Ultra is going to go down. There's still a couple more reinforcing Ultras. The sides, they pop up. SHIN trying to clean up whatever he can. Takes down some of these tanks. 2 more tanks go down. And yeah, GG gets called as Ryung gets broken. He's plummets in supply. And SHIN takes game number 1. Whew. GG. GG, well played. SHIN, he was already remaxed, and Ryung, he was down to 130 supply. He was down to 130, and even though he was holding onto his natural, he had lost all of his tanks. He had lost, what was that, over 20 SCVs. He had lost his economy. He had lost everything, and SHIN snowballed out of control. GG. GG, well played. Again, the Ultra timing was successful. I was a little bit concerned that the Ultras wouldn't be as effective without the Vipers, and it's true they weren't as effective, but effective enough. It did their job. With that, SHIN does take a lead in the series. Now we're getting into game number 2. This is going to be Ryung's map of choice, and based on Ryung's playstyle, this makes plenty of sense. Get ready here for an hour-long game because we're loading into Abyssal Reef. Oh boy. As spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Abyssal Reef, we have the South Korean Terran player, the Red Terran representing Team Vitality, down in this series. We'll see if the Tuna can bounce back and force the ace match as he is under the seas in his element. It is Ryung. And spawning in the bottom or in the top left-hand corner, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg representing Gaiman Gladiators. It is SHIN. Now, Ryung's playstyle last game is very distinct, and if you noticed, but we did actually speak about how Ryung technically could have been more greedy. Technically, he had map control, and SHIN was being more defensive, and Ryung could have cut corners. If you recall in that last game, Ryung, he was playing very safe. He was playing very safe. He was slowly getting his 4th, slowly getting a 5th, slowly getting a 5th base, a 6th base as well. A very slow, methodical, and defensive setup. That is where Ryung's strengths lie. If he can max out with the ideal late game Terran composition, he can pop off. There's a reason why Ryung excels in TvT, and a big reason for that is because, you know, it's very much so positional based, and you can strip away a lot of the more mobility of your opponent and kind of whittle things down a little bit more and take advantage in a different kind of setup, in a different kind of play style. Here against Zerg, he's going to attempt the same thing. And this map of choice makes plenty of sense. Remember, it is loser's pick. It is loser's pick. This is Ryung's choice to embrace Abyssal Reef, the most defensive map in the map pool, the most macro map. The reason for this, the natural, very defendable. Again, there's a very narrow ramp coming into natural. You can just fully wall off with a couple of depots. Likewise, you can focus then your defense at the 3rd base. You can expand further towards the 4th, where you also have rocks to protect you. You have the high ground advantage. Likewise, it can be quite difficult and awkward to actually push in towards the 4th base, the 5th base as well. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th are all right next to each other, so they're all, it's really easy to rotate between the bases to defend, to fortify yourself. It is why often this map is vetoed. It is very often vetoed in ZVT, but there are no vetoes in OlimoLeague, so SHIN is forced to play on this map, and Ryung, I would imagine, wants to embrace a longer game state and wants to turtle up. And we could even see mech. True. I mean, this isn't Gumiho, but Ryung, he does play mech from time to time, and I feel like this wouldn't be a bad map for mech as well, considering, you know, the features of Abyssal Reef. Meanwhile, SHIN going hatch gas pool. Now, as we saw in the previous game, what I should also emphasize, on the one hand, yes, this map is really good for defensive play, and we most likely will see Ryung embrace a longer game state. But SHIN, likewise, is also willing to be tech heavy as well. In the last game, SHIN wasn't really being too aggressive at all. Remember, he was being defensive with Lingbane Roach Ravager. He wasn't being aggressive whatsoever. He was just focusing on defending, on teching. Ooh, CC's gonna be delayed. Big delay in the command center. There's only one Marine to defend. Boys, they have to be pulled. Ryung cutting too many corners. There we go. The Reaper does race back home, thankfully. And Ryung should defend. No, not without losing the Marine. And Ryung holds. What I was getting at is that SHIN, last game, he did embrace a more defensive style, very tech-heavy. He was purely defending, taking up into Hive, into Ultras, and then he snowballed out of control with the Ultras. But we could see something similar here. On the flip side, we could see SHIN attempt an all-in, but all-ins are very difficult to really make work, just because of what we mentioned, because it's so easy to reinforce these bases, to rotate between them, and of course to defend them as well, as we have some narrow choke points, we have some points of elevation as well to take advantage of. It can be quite difficult to all-in. Meanwhile, that is going to be a later Roach Warren. This is going to be a 3:45 or 3:40-ish Roach Warren timing. This is later than what we saw in the previous game, and you can see SHIN walling off. He's walling off here at the ramp, making sure that Hellion Rumbyes do not get in, and SHIN is taking his 3rd. So we could be here for a long time. This might just be a bit of a longer game state here, but we'll see. We're still in the early minutes here of the game. So we could see some kind of crazy aggressive transition. 3rd CC is already done for Ryung, soon to take his 3rd. We have seen even some players greedy enough to take their 3rd base on location. Ryung isn't going to be taking that chance. But that's going to be a 1-1-1 Viking into Raven. I'm feeling a second factory, not gonna lie. I could be mistaken. You know, maybe I'm seeing things. Maybe I've smudged too much against mech. Meanwhile, 4-minute 30 layer timing here at a SHIN. Not a bad layer timing here. Relatively standard, going layer after the Roach Warren. Yep. I mean, I'm telling you, I see a Raven. I feel the mech, papi. Double armory on the way. Ryung, he is meching it up. Oh, boy. I mean, we mentioned it at the start of the game as well. Like, this is a good map for mech. It makes sense. It all makes sense here for Ryung. Being more defensive, being more tech heavy, racing into mech. Double armory is very greedy, as you can imagine, rushing into double upgrades. But again, on a map like Abyssal Reef, you can cut corners and you can afford something like this, like double armory. So yes, this is greedy, and yes, Ryung should get away with it. Behind this, SHIN is droning. He is making a safety amount of roaches just to be safe, but focusing on saturating. So SHIN is droning, Ryung is being active with some Hellions, is moving out, and we'll see what Ryung can get done. Now, it goes both ways. I was talking earlier how defendable this map is here to protect your 3rd and 4th, also applicable to Zerg players, where roaches, they have an easy time rotating between the bases, and these Hellions will have a hard time getting into a mineral line. So SHIN, he should be fine, he should defend. Ooh, SHIN rushing into an early Spire. Okay, you have my attention. Now, if this goes unscattered, if Ryung is tunnel visioning, right? If he's just focused and hyperfixated on building up his tank army, getting his 3rd base, getting a 4th, if Ryung doesn't scout, and if he doesn't make any safety Cyclones or Thors, then SHIN could completely catch Ryung off guard and snowball out of control. So it's a big gamble here with the Mutaden. Mutaden? What? With the Spire. It's been a long cast. It is a risky maneuver here with the Spire, but we'll see if he can get away with it. We shall see. As so far, unscattered. Ryung could afford a scan, is what I will say. He could scan the main, but for the time being, Ryung, he's holding off on that, building up more tanks, getting into 1-1 upgrades. 4th CC is on the way. And the Spire is now done. Mutas are in production. There is 0 anti-air. oh no. Not like this, papi. Not like this. Ryung, he of course spots the roaches. He sees the upgrades on the way as well. There's nothing. There's auto turrets, right? This one Raven can shoot up with auto turrets. That is it. That is all the anti-air. There's no turrets. There's no Cyclones. There's no Thors. There's nothing. I think there's one Marine. No, not even. There's not even a Marine. Now, if only SHIN knew, because as you can see here, SHIN, he does make some mutas, but he only makes 7. That is enough to one-shot SCVs. You can see that SHIN is making roaches and links. So even SHIN doesn't believe in the mutas. But if he had committed into purely muta production, I think he could bust into a mineral line, wreak havoc, and maybe just end the game. Straight up. Damage is still going to be done, but nowhere near as much. Nowhere near as much. As again, SHIN is just focusing on transitioning. He's getting into Ling speed, Baneley Nest, Ling Bane, Roach Ravager. So again, it is a cheeky maneuver here by SHIN, but not overly committed. He busts in, SCV is going to be going down, and the mineral line should fall. I like that. There's nothing. there's nothing here. Cyclone production just now begins. Vikings are on the way, and if only SHIN had realized just how vulnerable Ryung was, because we could have seen even more damage. I mean, this is already insane. 18 SCVs going to be going down. Cyclones, they're still halfway done. Vikings have arrived, and we're just going to throw the mutas away at this point. We're just going to throw them away, trading with the Vikings. Going to shut down 2 of them, getting into the mineral line. 22 and 23 SCVs. 25. Finally, the Cyclones arrive, and with that, Ryung defends. Ryung holds, but he will lose 2 mineral lines. 29 SCVs. And again, if only SHIN had realized, it's a risk, right? It's a gamble that you take. But if he had made nothing but mutas, if he had just committed, that would have just been game. That would have just been game then and there. Alas, Ryung, he has a standing army, is what I will say. He has some tanks, he has some mutas, he has some Hellbats. Mutas are cleaned up, but SHIN is maxed. And the reality is that these mutas, they may not have necessarily directly ended the game, but they have set up SHIN for success. Like SHIN, he's about to max. And Ryung, his economy is crippled. His economy is crippled, his production likewise as well. He can't really afford to produce as much as he would like to. SHIN, his hive is done. Greater Spires on the way for Broodlords. And here comes the main army. Here comes SHIN. And can Ryung hold? I'm not so sure he can. The 1-2 punch, the mutas, they laid it up here. They laid up the layup for SHIN. For the Ling Bane, Banelings, they rush into the base, and the planetary goes down. There's no saving it. The planetary falls. Tanks as well. And these are just losses that Ryung cannot afford. Ryung, he is going to be able to hold on here just barely, but he's losing so many tanks, losing so many SCVs. And even then, SHIN is still not done. He's still rallying in, and he's done it. He's broken the back of Ryung. It's one of those things where a Spire that's unscouted can wreak havoc in every matchup, in ZVZ, ZVP, and ZVT as well. This is when you are most vulnerable as Terran, as a meching player, is you need to know whether or not there is a Spire to start up those turrets, those Thors, those Cyclones. Again, zero anti, nothing shut up. Like, nothing shut up for Ryung. There was zero anti-air. And here comes the second wave. Here comes the second push for SHIN. Building up another wave of Roach Ravager, of Lings. Plus on melee is about to finish up. And Ryung is stuck on 3 bases. He's stuck on 3 bases. And on the one hand, yes, this is a very defendable map. That is true, but I mean, not when you lose 30 SCVs to mutas. I mean, that's... not like this. The mutas, they don't care about your defensive setup. Not if you can't shoot up, man. Not if you can't shoot up. As SHIN is pushing his way in, breaking through the front line, and we'll take a lot of tank shots. Oh, Jesus, the tank line is brutal. Oh my god. I mean, again, defendable. There's only one avenue of attack here, and the siege line does well. Ryung holds. Ryung, he holds on. And he's got 6 tanks here behind him. It is not easy to break a defending Terran player here, but SHIN is going to try. Now, is there a world where Ryung bounces back and recovers in this game? There is, but only if SHIN makes mistakes as well. If he avoids expanding, if he doesn't saturate correctly, if he just rams his face up against this wall of tanks time and time and time again, then sure, then there is a chance. But so far, SHIN, he backs up. And SHIN's goal should really just be deny the 4th even. Deny the 4th base over and over again. That's all that SHIN has to do. Vipers have arrived. As the Vipers, they get locked on. 1, 2 Vipers gonna be, 1 Viper gonna be going down, the other's out of energy. The tank volleys are insane. I mean, Ryung, he's trading efficiently, true. Is trading much more efficiently here than SHIN. Pushing forward with those tanks. Setting up his 4th. Now, SHIN does have the Greater Spire, and we could be seeing a 2nd Spire and double upgrades and working towards Broodlords. SHIN is somewhat taking those steps. Somewhat. I'm also not entirely in love with the Hydra transition here, as the Hydras are quite fragile, quite soft, and I don't really see SHIN breaking this position with Hydras. I mean, it is a more mobile army, true. Is mobile. As he lunges forward, takes some tank shots to the face. Ravagers are going down. And Ryung, he's catching up in supply. He is catching up. Now, the big advantage still here for SHIN, as we do see a scan across the map, is the Broodlords. Here we go. The Broodlords have arrived. We spoke earlier about the lack of anti-air, and how many Vikings are there? Let's double check here. 3. 3 Vikings, 9 Cyclones. The anti-air here is very much so lacking for Ryung. He scans. He does not get eyes on the Broodlords. He will miss them. And SHIN, he moves out. Ryung is maxed, by the way. Impressive. Impressive here that Ryung has been able to stabilize. Oh, the Hydras, they do move forward. Hydras were exposed. Broodlords are revealed. And the Broodlords will just bully back the ground army. There's only 3 Vikings. It's not enough. Wings, they come in for support. A bit of an awkward attack here from SHIN. But last of Broodlords, they still just out-trade the army. Clutch transfuses, keeping the Broodlords alive. And with the Hydra reinforcements, it looks like SHIN, he is breaking through. He's getting on top of the tanks. Again, there's only one Viking, just one Viking left. And the Broodlords, they clean house. They clean everything up. And again, it was impressive that Ryung was able to build up and max out despite the earlier losses. But again, he just wasn't ready for Broodlords. He wasn't ready for the Mutas initially. He wasn't ready for the Broodlords in the follow-up. GG gets called, and SHIN will take the series 2-0. Will advance on to the semi-finals. GG. Ooh, GG, well played. SHIN with the mutas. With the muta switch, he does deny us an hour-long game, thankfully. Does deny that. Again, very impressive out of Ryung. Despite being caught completely off guard by the mutas, he was able to eventually retake his 4th base and max out. Once again, though, he was very tank-oriented, very tank-focused, and he had limited anti-air. So SHIN was able to abuse that for a second time, this time not with mutas, this time with Broodlords instead, and was able to just snowball out of control from there. Able to break through and able to take the game. GG. Take the series even 2-0. GG, well played. With that, we have our top 4. Do need a moment here to get those scores updated. Ooh, there we go. We have wrapped up our quarterfinals, and we can now switch our scenes over and catch up on the bracket itself. Here we go. We have our initial Protoss players. Again, we've had just a sea of Protosses towards the top half of the bracket. We have Zaun and Hero. This is going to be a rematch. We have seen Zaun and Hero go back and forth. Zaun, I believe, has a winning record against Hero this year. Well, I say this year, in 2024, but I believe most recently Hero has been getting the better of Zaun. So there's been more of a back and forth as of late. Would not be surprised if that goes to the ace match. Zaun and Hero, they are about to face off next on the channel as they are facing off in the upper semis. Scrolling down, Percival took down Rex, SHIN took down Ryung, and we have a TvZ between Percival and SHIN in the semifinals. Again, Percival is the dark horse. Percival, he did retire for quite some time. He recently came back at the start of December to competitive play, and it's very impressive to see him making it this far in the tournament. Took down Rex, took down Mana, but SHIN is on another level. This is going to be a big result here for Percival if he's able to take it. He has a mountain to climb, as SHIN is going to be favored. When it comes to the PvP, honestly, I feel like that's very, very up in the air. It's very close. Zaun, he's notorious for his PvP. Hero is a more well-rounded player. It could go either way. I'm hoping for an ace match. Hoping for an ace match here, as we have 3 series left. Let's go. We have both semis and the grand finals, where we're almost there. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Let's go. Let's go. It would be nice if I could get some food and some rest before the cast later tonight. Again, we have the pond cast in 3.5 hours. Oh no. Is it in 3 hours? Wait, no shot. Let me just double check. Okay. 4.5. Thank God. 4.5 hours is the pond cast. So we have, like, I should be able to wrap this up in time. I should be able to get some sleep before that and get some food ideally. So we're gonna be okay. Regardless, we'll still have the semifinals ahead of us. We're going to be going on a short break. We need some time to get everything set up, get ready. I'm going to refill my tea and make sure that my throat is able to maintain itself coming into this, as we are 5.5 hours in, and 100% we're going to be reaching the 7-hour mark. So for now, we're going to be going on a break. When we come back, we will have Zaun versus Hero, followed by Percival versus SHIN. We'll see you soon after the break. See you soon.